Hey, what's up, hockey fans, and welcome into another edition of This Week in Flyers Hockey. I'm your host, James Scorza, with you. With me, as always, is my group of companions. No Austin Hammel today. He is under the weather, but we got a special guest joining us here today. Joey Marks, as always, my Passion Nav sports show buddy of mine. Good to see you, Joe. And joining us here today is a good friend of ours that actually making his return back on this Hardcore Sports Network is Connor Acuna. What's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good, guys. It's good to be back with you and excited to talk pucks.
Yeah, let's get it. So, Joey, I know the craziest thing about it too is that we got a busy week ahead of us. Actually, we got this week of Flyers hockey today, and then in a couple of days from now, we'll talk to the man that calls the game for Philadelphia Flyers hockey, and Jim Jackson, coming up on Friday. And the actual recording will happen on Friday, but it won't air until the week after on Valentine's Day. And then you can also see it right back here on this week of Flyers hockey, the week of President's Day. So. But man, do we had to get a lot to get to on this show here today because it feels like it's been a running trend for the Philadelphia Flyers as of late. We without cause for concern, but obviously the last couple games have not been the best for the Flyers. Overall, simply put, Joe, I'll ask you the first question. Is there any way can the Flyers could stop this bleeding before this Olympic break? Because it feels like it's starting. The scar room is starting to get more and more worse, as it seems like now.
Well, you said you prefaced it by saying before the Olympic break. If you would have said the rest of the season, I would have said yes. Before the Olympic break, I'm going to say no. I just think these guys are gassed a little bit. I think when you look at some of the teams that they've beaten, they played out of their world, out of their universe. And I'm not going to discredit them for that because, good on them. But you got to sustain success from the good teams to the bad teams.
Mm-hmm.
The most disappointing loss this week was the Columbus Blue Jackets. Because the Blue
Absolutely.
Jackets are not going anywhere. And you had a lead and you let a very weak team come back and beat you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went and got your ass trounced by the Bruins.
Mm.
And then you kind of came back on the Kings and stole a point. I was debating with this in my head earlier in the day. I'm like, okay, so who stole the point? Did we or did they?
Right.
Because at this point, it's like they came in, we should have beaten them, yet they still won the game, and we should have never been in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So this all comes down to continuity. And I'm going to probably be saying that from now until the end of the season. And the continuity starts with the goaltender, the starting goaltender, and it ends with the wingers, forwards. And in between, you have the defensemen, and they have to stay stout in front of that goaltender. They haven't been. And it's just really ugly shots that they're just really easy shots they're letting just breeze on by. Now, that could be the goaltender's fault. I'm not saying it's not. But the defensemen need to protect that goaltender if he's not, up to snuff.
Right.
I think that the bleeding's going to continue into the Olympic break, but I do have a lot of confidence, and we talked about this before. I do have a lot of confidence that when the Flyers come back from the Olympic break, they're going to have the more rested legs in comparison to a lot of other teams that are in the playoff hunt.
Sure. Absolutely. So basically, for me, it's kind of like our funny fact is it is Groundhog Day, gonna admit, but it feels like it's been Groundhog Day for the last handful of months. Actually not for the last handful of months, the last handful of weeks or so. So, Connor, I'll ask you this question. The same question I asked Joey here. How do you think the Flyers can stop this bleeding at this point from worsening to see what they look like before the Olympic break?
I think, and everybody that's watching, listening, however they consume this show is probably not gonna like this answer, but I think you just have to keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
And these are young guys. They're gonna unfortunately we're kind of still at the stage of the rebuild where there's some lumps that you have to take, unfortunately. And once they learn how to win, this is going to be a really good good team. So unfortunately, I don't really think the Flyers can really do anything other than just continuing to play each period, each 20 minutes, and see where the scoreboard lays after that.
Right, right. Yeah, the thing surprises me the most is that I kind of feel bad for Austin not being here today because obviously he was one guy that was saying that Flyers hockey was relevant in this day and age, especially, and it felt like it was like that after the Cutter Gauthier return and then Trevor Zegras was showing off, but now it feels like obviously they got maybe 1 or 2 wins in that process of that losing streak that has happened, but it feels like right now, I mean, that I think this Olympic break could help him a lot. I think it could help him in a mentally of ways. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I want to say, you mentioned about Austin planting the flag and saying the Flyers hockey is
What's up,
relevant again.
Daniel? Good to see
And
you,
I
buddy.
and I said that too. I followed suit with Austin, and I still believe that.
Mhm.
I think Flyers hockey is relevant. If we look back 2 years ago, God, the Rangers team, the Rangers fans took over the barn. I mean,
They did.
it was embarrassing. Now, I don't think that kind of thing happens. I think that pride is coming back into this organization gradually. I agree with Connor. This is a team that's still going to go through its growing pains,
Sure.
and we're going to go through them along with them. I said this before on the Pasadena Sports Show this past Saturday. Is this team does not have a superstar.
Mhm.
They don't have a Connor McDavid. They don't have a guy that can kind of cover up some of the young mistakes that some of these young players make.
Mhm.
Every one of these kids is going to make mistakes, and they're all going to look different. And when they're all happening at the same time, the team looks disjointed. It doesn't look consistent. It doesn't look together. There is a part of this that in some way I agree with Connor, that they kind of have to play through their mistakes. And
Mhm.
it's going to suck. And it's going to suck for fans, and it's going to suck for them. But
Yeah.
what needs to happen is, if they come out on the other side of this Olympic break and take something out of this first half,
Yeah.
or first 2/3 or whatever it is of the
Mhm.
season, if they take something away from that and take the home stretch of this season and say, okay, let's learn from our mistakes.
Right.
These guys, I mean, James, we've watched hockey for an awful long time.
Long
You
time.
and I both know that teams can go on 10, 11 game tears.
That's right.
And when you go on a 10 or 11 game tear, it just flips the whole script in the standings for you.
Yeah. It does.
My feeling is, with the Flyers coming off the Olympic break with fresher legs than some of the already playoff contending teams, because a lot of them, those teams are sending a lot of players to the Olympics. One of the things I would say is the Flyers will be more well rested. Maybe they'll be physically sharper. Maybe they'll be mentally sharper. Maybe they'll be motivated, because this isn't like, the black hole of collapse like it was almost last year, where it
Mhm.
just felt like I dreaded, James, going on to do post games with you.
Oh,
I
I'm with
dreaded
you.
it
I dreaded it
because
too, brother.
I was like, I gotta come and kind of feel like the broken record and say the same damn thing, because it's the same damn.
Same old stick. The same old
But
stick every game. Yep.
I was like,
Yep.
okay, James, what's your questions for tonight? Are they the same thing? Why? Because we have the same problems. Like, what are we supposed to do? And it's not that we don't want to entertain all you, but we might as well reenact a Seinfeld episode. Would have been
It's
more
true.
entertaining.
It's funny. I mean, it's funny you mentioned Seinfeld there too, because it feels like Seinfeld probably can run through like 5-6 ideas without even blinking for like a 30-minute show. We tried to do that in 30 minutes, and it was like we had like brain cramps because it was the same shit every night more than anything. But no, I agree, Joe. I think that's the one thing that the Flyers need to do, especially after the Olympic break. And they'll definitely have some fresher legs, especially after that Olympic break, more than anything, especially with the players that they got in the Olympics and especially the teams that are going to be playing in the Olympics. So it'll be something to keep a close eye on here, too, more than anything. So this is going to be a funny question I'll ask both of you guys here. Is that I would say a standout performance here for this Flyers team to this point, but obviously I think the standout performance for me is that they need to get back to the old relevancy of Flyers hockey, what it once was at the beginning of the season, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's move on here. So obviously we'll talk about the two other matchups coming up this week between the Flyers and the Capitals. That's going to be a tough one tomorrow with Ovechkin in town. And then they close out I think they close out in Ottawa, or is it here in Philadelphia for the Senators game? I think it's here, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's here because I think they already played in Ottawa.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Yeah, it is here. Okay, so they close out the Olympic break. They close out before the Olympic break. They take on the Senators. So we'll see your old boy Claude Giroux come back in town again, Joe. So
Hey.
So let's see what the Flyers would do here. But overall, guys, simply put here, what were your keys to the two games here this week? What do you think the Flyers can do to try to nurse some wins here, especially before this Olympic break? Joe?
Well, I think you have to get better goaltending play because I don't think we're going to have Villar back in net until after
Vladar.
the Olympic.
Vladar. Yeah.
Vladar. I don't think we're going to have him back in net until after the Olympic break. And
so you're saying it's Kolosov going to be in goal for the two games? Because Erson got hurt in that Boston game.
God help us.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
oh my.
Well, here's the other thing. If Erson's hurt, then does that mean they bring up Fedotov?
Well, I think Fedotov's with Columbus now, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
So, well, I'll be honest with you. I would go out of my way and get one of those old Rick DiPietro type of goaltenders, if that's the case. I mean, obviously I'm a big component of that, but
because if Kolosov is the answer for the next couple games,
we're screwed. We're screwed, man.
Jesus.
I have a better chance of making more saves than he does, and I won't see the puck coming.
Yeah, where's Ontario Niedermacky?
Oh my God.
Where's Ontario Niedermacky and Neil Little when you need them?
Oh.
I mean, they are playing the Senators again. I would understand it will be an old brawl like back in that 2003 Spectrum Sunday night at the Spectrum on that 2003 date. I always watched it all the time. It was still great stuff. But Connor, I always get the same question here. Do you actually see the Flyers actually pick up some wins this week before the Olympic break?
I think they go 1-1. I think they win against Ottawa, whether it's here or in Ottawa. Simply because, and I could be wrong on this, James or Joey, please fact check me, but I think Ottawa may be one of the oldest teams in the NHL. So if you can make them skate for 60 minutes, I think you can beat this Ottawa Senators team. Now the Capitals tomorrow. Oh, that's gonna be a tough one. Oh my God. Ovechkin's gonna line up at the right circle and just pepper slap shots.
Yeah,
it'll be great.
The other thing too with the Capitals, like they're actually out with their goaltender too. I think they lost their goaltender during the week. I think they lost two of them. I think, and Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren due to injuries. But with this Flyers team right now, they can make those two goaltender or whoever their goaltender will be tomorrow. We'll look into we'll probably have another version of Olaf Kolzig or Braden Holtby, like make them into a star gear. But most disappointed more than anything. So for me, I say I'm in the same boat as you are, Connor. I think that they'll go 1-1 on this because obviously Ovechkin, the way he is right now, he can easily. I mean, he could easily, if he could play until next year, he could probably go to 1,000 goals and become the greatest goal scorer of all generations. But every time I see him play, it's just like I can't hate him. I'm a big Ovechkin fan. He's a great player. Going back to his early years, I used to have a debate with a buddy of mine about who was better. It was either Crosby or Ovechkin. I mean, it was must-see hockey, but the most
It's
important.
not even close. It's not even close anymore.
No, not even close. Back then it was, but not anymore. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And then obviously, to counter his point here with the Senators, I think they are an old team at this point. I mean, they got Brady Tkachuk, they got Stützle, and all this other players that I wish the Flyers would go out and get because they have a really good talent on there. And I think there's another player that sticks to my mind too, is that the Flyers should have gone after like a guy like Dylan Cousins, like in that trade deadline last year, because he was one
former Flyer, Dylan Cousins.
No, he was a former Philly at one point. I think back in the day.
Yeah, you're thinking of the baseball player Dylan Cousins.
Has the same name though, but that's the different sport.
Okay. No, sorry.
Well, but actually no. Actually, no. You know who you're thinking of? You're thinking of Nick Cousins. I think that's
he played in the AHL, so I knew we had a guy with the last name Cousins in the AHL at one point.
Right. Yeah, I got you. Well, there's a lot of them. It's like Kirk Cousins too, but I'm not gonna go there. So
they're all cousins.
Yeah, they're all cousins, and they're kissing cousins.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. I mean, for me, for the Flyers, they have to do this week. Just give me some hope. Just give me some hope, for God's sake. Just give me something to write. Just give me something positive to talk to JJ this week, because I feel like the question I feel like I'm going to be doing is going to ask him all these types of questions. Like it's going to sound like I have to keep my P's and Q's in check, because they have just been really so discombobulated the last handful of games more than anything.
When we talked to JJ over the summer, I mean, we asked him, I think maybe 2 or 3 times in 2-3 different ways, like, what should be the fans' optimism going into this season? And his words were that they should be optimistic. They should potentially reach a playoff position, maybe grab the 8th seed, but they need to do a lot of improving. And look, in some ways in some games they take that step forward to improve. In other ways, in other games, it feels like they just forgot everything they learned.
Right.
And you try to wonder, they're kids. I have a 5-year-old. It's different, but
right.
my daughter, like, I will tell her to do something, and like 2 minutes later, I'll be like, "Did you do that?" And like, she'll be like, "What? No." And I'm like, "I just asked you to do that twice. Can you go please do it?" And she's like, "Okay." And like a minute or 2 later, I was like, "Did you do it?" "What?" And I'm like, forget it. So, I mean, like, when you're teaching like 20-somethings and what young kids in this young adult,
I get what you mean.
That still happens. Like, that you teach them, and you're like, Taka must be like, "Did we go over that like 20 times in practice? Why aren't you guys paying attention? Come on, man." And look, I get it, but
I feel bad for Taka too.
That's the detriment of having all the youth that we have, and you brought this up too, James, but not having like a quarterback on the ice.
Right.
Like having a veteran on the ice to kind of quarterback things for those young guys that are forgetting some of the things they should be doing. They're putting them in the right positions to succeed. Pronger did that when he was here.
And Tebow.
Because we had a lot of youth around them, and all they did was play quarterback back at the blue line. You go over there. We learned this. Go over there. And like, I think that took a lot of pressure off of like the coach's brain, because he's like, thank God he's out there, because I don't need to yell at these guys. I don't want to yell at these guys. And like, I can understand what I think needs to happen for these 2 games, James, because we can't depend on the goaltending.
Right.
For us. We have to see the Flyers score 5 goals each game.
Right.
That's what has to happen.
Right. I agree. No, more than anything, before we go any further here, Hembo checks in, also known as Austin Hembo, checks in for the first time. He says, afternoon, gentlemen, and also giving a shout out to you, Connor, for filling in for him today. And he says, have a good show, and we'll talk, and let's go Flyers. Thanks for chiming in, Austin.
Appreciate it, Austin. Feel better, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel better, brother. Feel better, my friend. Yeah, I think you're right, Joe. I think that's the thing that's been the problem with this team is that you think about the team has had success before is that they had a quarterback on that captain, like they had a captain that would lead the way. I mean, like you brought up with Prong and I brought up with Team, and then I don't see Sean Couturier being that voice.
I don't either.
You know what I mean?
I don't. And look, he's like nothing against the centerman being a captain because there have been some really good centermen that have been captains.
Of course,
true.
Right. That's debatable. But like guys like Eric Lindros, guys like Bobby Clark, like guys like that who were centermen and actually like led the team. What you need, look, Coots. I've been saying this for a while. I think Coots is a great player. I do. And I think he's a great leader. I think he's a great teammate, but I just don't think it's kind of like Jalen Hurts. Like we learned it in practice. Now I have to go play. And it's like, but you have to translate what you've learned to the rest of your teammates that may need refreshers or reminders.
Right.
Look, I'm not saying you got to strip the C from him. I honestly think
I agree.
I think you have to figure out how to bring an assistant captain in that can be the quarterback on defense. And whether that's Travis Sanheim or not, I think a lot of people were hoping it was going to be Travis Sanheim. It just hasn't been.
Or maybe Travis connecting, because it feels like Travis connecting might be a better C too. Well, one of them could be one of them, But and also to piggyback what you said about the whole Couturier thing, yeah, I mean, they thought Couturier was going to be like a Lindros type captain or a Bobby Clark type captain. I mean, you think about it now, mass majority of the NHL, it's like if you were the C, you basically are a center. I mean, it's a rarity that you don't like. I mean, there's like other like teams that have like forwards as captains, obviously. But I think the other thing too is that I think now more than anything, it's more like, okay, you're the center, means you're the next one. You have to wear that C. I mean, it's kind of like they want this. I think they probably dropped the gun too soon on this Sean Couturier being the captain because they were thinking, okay, Claude Giroux is not the captain anymore. He got traded. Who do we fill the captain's shoes? I mean, we think Couturier is the captain, but unfortunately, Couturier is a good presence in that locker room. At the same time, too, it's more like is he captain material?
And at that time, Couturier was the elder statesman in the locker room.
Right. That exactly.
Kind of the thing.
Exactly. All right, so let's move on here. So we will move on here, and this is something we'll talk about here this is another topic here that basically we'll talk about it now because obviously this is around the time they do like State of the Unions and this type of stuff and everything about that included. So it's called the State of the Philadelphia Flyers to this point. Obviously, the next time we'll see you is when the Flyers are on the Olympic break next week. So, Joe, and Connor, I'll ask you this question. Actually, Connor, I'll ask you this question because you actually had a question to ask about, or you think that people, I think, were actually might consider it blaming the factor of being it would be the blame game will be going to Keith Jones or Danny Briere or Rick Tocchet. If you may, I don't know. Excuse me. Hang on a sec. Who do you think will be the one at fault, or any of them at fault, for the Flyers' fair share of errors that they had these last couple games or so, or the last couple weeks or so, or last month or so, rather?
Well, I think it starts with Tocchet, the guy behind the bench, and I think he's honestly doing a good job. Keep in mind it's his first year, it's a young team, and like he gives that like veteran coach vibe, similar to Tortorella, but he's less of a hothead than Tortorella was. Tortorella would just randomly bench Matvey Michkov for whatever fucking reason.
Right.
Probably because that's how he gets his rocks off. But just hating on a player. But Tockett's much more patient, which is what a young team needs. I think Tortorella would have been the perfect coach for the Flyers if the Flyers were in a contending type of mindset, because at that point you need kind of more of a demanding coach. But if I were to lay blame at the feet of anybody, it probably would be Rick Tocchet, just because he's the guy behind the bench and he entrusts like his assistants with the power plays um he is the head coach, runs the practices, and he installs the offensive and defensive systems and all those things like that. So um for me, if I were to blame anyone, I'd probably blame Tocchet. But yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, it's a valid point. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's a lot to go around. Obviously, it'll be like who needs to be the one that has to take the blame here. And Joe, I'll ask you the same question here, like I asked Connor. Simply put, I mean, who do you think is the blame for this? Like this struggle for the Flyers right now?
You know,
At this point,
my answer is kind of really complicated. I honestly don't think there's much of. I think it's. I think it's the. I think
I know.
It's tough because you're right. There's plenty of blame to go around. Okay, I could make a case for each and every one of these people.
Sure, yeah.
But the other side of that coin is I can make a case as well for them doing a good job. You know, Tocchet didn't get handed the keys to a red hot cherry Ferrari. Like he got keys to a Honda Civic and said, okay, now race us around the track against all the other sports cars.
Right.
It's kind of hard. And so Rick Tocchet is doing the best he can. Is he doing better than what people expected? Maybe in the beginning of the season, I'd say yes. Now, not so much. I think he's kind of right on par right now. I think it could change if he takes this team to the playoffs. He definitely overachieved as a coach. I would say Danny Briere in a somewhat begrudging way. We got one goaltender. We had Sam Erikson. And and Kozlov and these goaltenders that did just. I mean, I'm glad we got rid of Fedotov, but they just blow my mind. It's like, okay, these guys are not starting goaltenders. Why are we holding on to these assets? Why not go back to the Michael Layton, Brian Elliott kind of
Sean Bertry too. Yeah, right.
Right, like something that gives a little bit more stability to not just the starting goaltender, but the backup goaltender.
I'm sorry, Connor. What were you gonna say, buddy?
Yeah, and I think I also think they have two either one or two Russian goaltenders in the pipeline. So and to Joey's point, like why wouldn't you shore up your starting and backup goalies while the guys that are either in juniors or down on the farm in Lehigh Valley, like why wouldn't you shore up your goaltending position until those guys are ready to roll out onto the NHL ice?
Yeah, absolutely.
Something of a stopgap. We use this term in football for like a stopgap quarterback, like a guy that can just be in between like one quarterback until you get a rookie quarterback.
Right.
Like it's just still sustain some level of success.
A bridge quarterback.
Yeah,
right.
And so
exactly.
I think we need a secondary bridge goaltender.
Hmm.
Because I don't think either. Like, I think we're going to have to figure out how to grow a goaltender and groom a goaltender into what it's going to be, and whether or not we could do it in time to be here and be present for this core, that's yet to be seen. I mean, look, these guys can go from 20 to 30 years old in what seems like a blink of an eye. And if you're saying, hey, we got guys in goaltending prospects in the pipeline, that's great. But those guys might take 2 or 3 years, 4 years to develop. And that by that point, you're talking about your core being either late mid 20s or and maybe even reaching your 30s. And then at that point, you're looking to either flip your team and get younger, or as your goaltender is getting here. This is why I think bringing in like a bridge goaltenders to better support your team. So when we really analyze this, I'm asking for a veteran player, preferably a defenseman, that can play quarterback for this team and be the quarterback on the ice. The other thing I want is to have a viable veteran, I want to highlight that in bold and underline it 20 times. Viable backup goalie, and just see what happens from that.
Well,
I'm not sure that they're going to have like the best goaltending in the league, but that's not what I'm targeting.
it's funny you mention that. I'm sorry, Connor.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, dude, whenever I watch Samuel Ersson play, it makes me want to stick my dude region in an electrical socket.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
Well, don't do that.
Don't do that, bud. Don't do that, man. Oh man. But it's funny you mentioned that, Joe, about the backup situation. I think if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Oilers decided to let go of their backup Calvin Pickard. So that could be a possibility that I mean, I didn't know about this, but Pickard was actually a goaltender with the Flyers a few years back before Carter Hart came here.
Could they get him off waivers? Is that the deal?
They could. I mean, if I'm Danny Briere, I'll do it. I'll say, you know what? If you're looking for a backup goaltender, right? And if you're desperately in need of a backup goaltender, I'll bring him in. I mean, he's like, I guess he's solid. I mean, for me, I would go after like somebody like an Aiden Hill or like somebody in that field that is like in backup I mean, there's another guy named Schmidt for the Vegas Golden Knights too. So, but somebody in that field that would be a reliable backup, if that's the right terminology.
Yeah. I'm all for that, because I mean, I'm not asking for whoever we get to be the future. We're not going to go and get this guy and be like, oh, he's the best thing since sliced bread. He's our future. And like, no. He just needs to be better than Sam Harrison. Like, because Sam Harrison, he had one great game with Colorado, and then it was just like the bottom fell out. He just started to feel himself a little bit too much. And it's like, all right, dude, you need to get more polish and more, humbleness to your game to understand that Colorado overlooked you guys.
Right.
And therefore, in doing so, they basically gave up the game.
Right.
They coughed up the game. And yes, you had some amazing saves, not taking anything away from you. But if you're asking me, do I trust Sam Harrison? You asked this on the Patterson Ave Sports Show. Do I trust Sam Harrison in a 7-game series if he has to come in for game 3 or game 5 or whatever?
Game 2 or 3 or 4, yeah.
Right.
Like a rotation.
No,
I don't think so either. I can't either.
I'm like, this is why I feel the way that I do. If we get a good enough backup goaltender, I could be okay, fine. Like there's a chance. Like there's a guy that there's at least a chance. Like I look at the Winnipeg Jets, they have good goalie crew. And that's the difference. I mean, Hellebuck makes a big difference, but his backup isn't all that bad either.
Yeah, actually, you know what? It's funny. I forgot about Hellebuck's backup in Winnipeg. I totally forgot about that. As I may, that's like Winnipeg's the team that has the guy from the AHL affiliate Chicago Wolves, Kevin Cheladeo, of which I wanted. Yeah, I know, Joe. I know. And obviously they're not doing well this year. But last year, I would say, okay, you know what? If he's still with the Wolves generation, if he's still with that Wolves team from that 2000 to 2008 tenure, from the Turner Cups and Calder Cup tenure, I would say, yeah, bring him in a heartbeat. But yeah, I mean, the craziest thing about it too with the backup situation, it feels like a buddy of mine brought this up a couple days ago, and I think it's a valid point here. We're starting to feel like that this is turning into the Cleveland Browns at this point, Joe. I mean, Joe and Connor, this is like starting to feel like the quarterback situation with the Browns, like how many quarterbacks they have, feels like we had the same thing going on right now with the Flyers. The only difference is that, I mean, at least the Flyers got to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2010, but that's almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I think this is where
It's unbelievable.
Not now, because it just feels like they're still in rebuild mode, and so they're not going to press now. But at some point, Keith Jones has talked about it. At some point, they are going to put all their chips in.
I would hope soon.
My feeling is when they choose to put all their chips in, it's going to be for one of two things. It's going to be for like a Connor McDavid kind of guy, or it's going to be for a goaltender that's just lights out. Like that's under contract for long term, that's young enough that you can get at least 4 or 5 good years out of him. And he's going to be the kind of Boucher of this generation. He's going to be the guy that's a little seasoned. He's not, he's not on everybody's radar to be to win the best goaltender award. Like, he's not there, but like, he is more than serviceable. I mean, you got to think about it. Boucher was a really good goaltender for a very long time. And a lot of people don't know about him as just being a starter because for so long he was a backup.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And you think about what Brian Boucher, what he brought to the table for those years, like from in that early tenure of his career. I mean, he was unstoppable. That's the thing. And you thought about it too, is that I mean, after Hex, I mean, this is going back to after Hextall. I thought, okay, after Hextall, they had a really good goaltender in shape with Brian Boucher. And the one thing I love about what Brian Boucher does do with this, like when he calls games, he dissects it like he's a perfect example of what the Flyers desperately need to do if they are going through this streak right now. And the one thing I would say that I give him a ton of credit for is that he shows he actually doesn't ignore the flaws of like the homerism of like being a broadcaster, like trying to keep homerism aside, but he keeps it real. Most importantly, I think he does a really good job with that. And the one thing I do like what he said after with this streak that they were going in, this losing streak, is that probably this Olympic break, I would hope that they come out on that February, whatever date they come back after the Olympic break, and have a recharge and a reset, and they're ready to make a playoff push and move one step further to what they're gonna be like. And I think that Olympic break could help them to get those fresh legs to try to get back to, like you said, Joe, early on, is to try to get back that same reset that they had and try to figure out what they can try to do to try to get back to that relevancy that they had early on in the season too.
When I played hockey, the one thing that I remember is when you were going through losing streaks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't go through a ton on the teams that I was on, but when we did, during those losing, like, so we lost 2 games in a row. We were coming into the third game and we were trailing by 2 goals after the first period. And I just remember putting my head down on the ice, waiting for the face-off. And I looked over to my teammate. I was like, this shit can't nothing go right for us.
Right.
Like nothing
never
go,
really got it
like,
going, right?
And so mentally you feel defeated before the puck even drops.
Right.
And so sometimes yes, you try to motivate yourself and get yourself up to say, okay, we could still win this game. And even that game, we actually took it to overtime. We still lost, but we took it to overtime. My thing was that we could have just laid down and died.
Sure.
And the Flyers on a lot of these teams could have laid down and died. And look, not to say that none of their losses weren't ugly. They were. But this team needs to understand you can't carry over one bad experience, one bad game into the next bad game. That's
right.
what me and my team did. That's what I did. Is I was like, because I knew we were on a 2-game losing streak. I knew after that beginning of that second period we were down by 2 goals, and I'm just turning to my teammate like nothing could go right for us.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing too. I mean, especially with somebody that knows the game of hockey well, that like when you're down 2-0, it feels like an eternity, and like and sometimes like you're trying to get chance after chance after chance, and it doesn't go your way, and yeah, sometimes it could get frustrating, and it gets so frustrating that you drop the gloves. You want to try to give.
Oh, I did that plenty of times.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's probably what the Flyers need to do here, especially if things are getting out of hand. I can understand like Nick Delorier dropping the gloves or going at Hathaway trying to stir the pot a little bit, and that's the most important thing here too, because like that's exactly what the Flyers need to do in the second half of the season. Is that they have to find a way. They did this before all season. They found ways to win all season. Now they have to see. They had to go back to that same identity that they had early on in this season and to continue that success, because right now they're not even in the postseason picture. I mean, they're literally on the outside looking in. I mean, that's the cause for concern right now. And if it continues to go down that road, it could be really bad for them. It could be really bad for the Flyers. It could be bad for them for this rebuild. I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. I just don't know. I've been thinking about, okay, what's the Flyers' identity? Is it's just like I got nothing. I don't know what to say. It just feels like it's just like a slow with a train car, like slow with a car crash, and you're just watching it in slow motion. It's just I don't know what to say. It's just it's frustrating. It's very frustrating. All right, so let's move on here. So we got one more topic here before we wrap up here. So this week, speaking of, if you didn't see our show earlier, this week Joe and I are going to be really busy this week talking to a great Philadelphia Flyers play-by-play announcer for NBC Sports Philadelphia. Joey, tell him more about it.
So we talked to him over the summer to kind of get a preview prior to the NHL draft, because the Flyers had a lot of draft picks and they're in rebuild mode. So we wanted to get his perspective on not just the draft but the season ahead. I'm of course talking about 30 years in the industry, 30 plus years in the industry. Jim Jackson, play-by-play commentator for the Philadelphia Flyers. Look, Jim Jackson is a great interview. He's a guy that is very educated in seeing all kinds of generations of Flyers teams come through the many names of that what's now the Xfinity Mobile Arena. Right. And so one of the things I'm definitely interested in talking to JJ about is kind of the struggles that they're having currently, but more importantly, like what he thinks they need to do, the small things and the large. What does he think they need to do to kind of right the ship? Because we've seen flashes of the talent and the depth of talent that's on this team. It's like I'm just waiting for it all to click together. Right. And I'm just curious if he's seeing anything, having to call the game pretty much every time, whether he's seen any little adjustments that they've made to make the cohesion a little bit more seamless. But absolutely. Yeah, so we're going to be talking to JJ on Friday. We're recording that then, and then we're going to air it on Valentine's Day on Patterson Ave Sports Show, and then on President's Day on February 16th for This Week in Flyers Hockey. So we're both excited. It's a pleasure to get to talk to JJ. I mean, look, this is his busy time of year, but we're fortunate because he's got Olympic break. And we're grabbing him right before he goes on vacation. Um, so it's going to be a nice interview, and JJ always gives us really good insight into the Flyers and what he's seen, not just because of calling the games, but because of the history he's seen pass through his eyes, like pass through his workplace. That in of itself. This is a guy who's seen some of these guys that we were mentioning: Tocchet, Lindros, uh, Giroux, Gagne,
Briere.
Pronger, Briere. Like
Yeah.
he's
Oh, yeah.
seen all these guys play and called their games. So you got to understand to see youngsters like a Mitchkoff, a Barkey, and stuff like that come out, a Grundstrom, coming out and playing the way that they do. JJ has seen this before, so he can give incredible insight to all of those young players that are on the Flyers, and I'm really looking forward to talking to JJ on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too about with Jim Jackson too is that he shows me there's a reason why that he's one guy that keeps it real. That's the most important thing. I think the one thing that we always love to hear about JJ is that he might be in this business for 30 years, but he's sharp. He's like really sharp. He's a sharp guy. Because obviously, I think the other thing too is that makes it even worthwhile is that sometimes when there's a bad penalty call, he calls it as it is, and if there's no call being called, like I think the other thing that really makes Jim Jackson so unique is that he wants the team to succeed. He wants the team to play with succeed. He wants to show the team. I think that the other thing that really excites me more than anything about JJ is that those postseason games with him were ecstatic. They're like just great calls. I mean, even that Game 6 against Boston before they made. Yep, Keep Primo. The 5 overtime game. That's right, Connor. I forgot about that. The Game 6 against Boston before they forced the Game 7. I mean, I watched that all the time and just see the crowd just buzzing. I mean, true story. I mean, before the Flyers went on this postseason run in 2010 when Brian Boucher made the save that get the Flyers to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, there's a lot of great moments. And even I love what his favorite call for me for Jim Jackson was when he called Mark Recchi the wrecking ball. Like that's just magic.
I love that.
Great call.
Yeah.
And the other one I loved about it too is like Danny Briere, Mr. Playoffs. I mean, there was a lot of great calls that he made. And here's the other thing too. If you're in 30 years in the business and you're still doing it 30 years later, like you might be up there with Harry Callis and Merrill Reese and Gene Hart, the great late Gene Hart, Bill Campbell. I can go on and on. But I mean, it's been amazing to think he's been doing this for this long. Vast majority of my lifetime. But Joe, great announcer and probably the greatest Flyers announcer in my lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we are privileged in this town. And I don't know if we all realize it sometimes that we have the legendary commentators that we have with JJ and Merle, with Harry Kay, and Tom McCarthy's another one.
Oh yeah.
Mark Zumoff.
I forgot about Zoom. Zoom.
There's a lot of good quality commentators that have come through here. And I'd be remiss because we're having JJ on. I'd be remiss if I would not mention Bill Clement. Bill Clement, even though he wasn't a play-by-play commentator, he was a color commentator. He's also a guy that made his name here in Philadelphia for both playing for the Flyers and also commentating for the Flyers, and also commentating for all your NHL games for all NHL enthusiasts from the 90s.
And ESPN too. He was a great him and Gary Thorne, man, the best. The best. Man,
well, I mean,
best.
That's the interesting. That's why I think EA needs to go back to partnering with ESPN again, because when they had their partnership with ESPN, and they were able to do the Wednesday the hockey night
Yep.
theme and entrance. I was ecstatic. I
Dude,
just
that
was
kid
like a
did,
giddy
right?
kid. But yeah, I mean, we're both looking forward to JJ. JJ's a good talk.
Yeah.
We'll have him on now. Have him on Friday, and then we'll try to get him in. And the hope is we'll get him after a long playoff run.
Hopefully, this will be something to give the Flyers a spark, and then the next time we'll talk to them, it's probably a preview to the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time in 10 years.
Yep, that's the hope. I mean, look, we as JJs, this team should fans feel hopeful that this team's a playoff contender, and
Yep,
he said, yeah, they should definitely feel hopeful. And look,
absolutely.
they got to polish things up. There's
Oh yeah,
no doubt about that. But the thing that, and I think we all can agree to, this team's got potential to, when they're all working in unison, they have potential to make a lot of hay in this East.
definitely.
And especially if they get their starting goaltender back, it's going to make a difference. And look, like, we're going to have a couple more episodes of This Week in Flyers Hockey between now and the trade deadline. So
Right.
I'm sure we're going to start hearing more and more rumors about the Flyers and whatnot. But before we go, I wanted to ask Connor the thing I asked you and Austin last week. Do you think the Flyers at the trade deadline will be buyers or sellers?
I think they're see, that's a tough question because they could do this really weird thing where they do a little bit of both, because they're in a spot where like, yes, currently they're out of the playoffs, but the East is the um the Eastern Conference of the NHL is a lot like the NFC in football, where it's just wide open. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Flyers tried to buy and sell in a weird way, but we'll soon find out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
really interested to see how that goes, because that's going to determine how the rest of the season goes. I think the trade deadline, and this is where Danny Briere needs to do a lot of his homework.
Yeah, definitely. This is where Danny Briere has to make his bread now, especially more than anything like that too. And the other thing is before we get out of here, yeah, I mean, that would be interesting to see what the Flyers would do come trade deadline, because I got a question to ask JJ about the buyers and sellers thing too, and maybe he'll probably give us some more information about that going forward, and even more so about the situation with the defense, and also what the state of Rasmus Ristolainen would be like, and everything about that included. He might be like one guy that might not be here by after March 6th, so that'll be something to keep a close eye on too, and especially what the Flyers will look like at the second half of their season right after the Olympic break. All right, that's going to wrap it up here for this edition of This Week in Flyers Hockey. Like always, I want to thank Joey Marks and also Connor Acutia for checking in for the first time in a while. Connor, I know it's been a while since we talked last, but where can people see you next, my friend?
On my YouTube channel, Sports Live in the 215. I also post, I also share the YouTube videos on Twitter, and I also post my YouTube videos as reels on our Instagram, which is also Sports Live in the 215. All of our social media is the same, so you guys can find us at Sports Live in the 215 on all platforms. So yeah, find me there, and
Sweet.
There's some good content.
Sweet, excellent. All right, and Joe, I know we talked about it. We're going to see JJ on Friday, rather, but obviously you won't be here the next time we'll see you on Pass and Have Sports Show in a couple weeks from now. I think we got Mitch Kovsky taking over the Toots and Whistles that day, so I will be sure that everything goes smoothly for this interview on Thursday and on Friday, and for everybody else, we'll see you guys back here next week. Same here, same place, same time. 4 o'clock right here on Hardcore Sports Network and Streampunk Entertainment. So now for everyone behind the scenes and for everyone that made it work here, for Joey, for Connor, and for Austin, get well soon, buddy. And to everybody, and from all of us to all of you, thanks for everybody for watching. Good night, good hockey, and we'll see you guys back here next week. Let's get it, guys.
I think we're still live.